Well, the Uncharted movie came out sooner than I expected.
Can you say competent?
Can you say, what was it, severe neurotoxicity? Oh man!
So we saw Dora. We talked about Dora and the Lost City of Gold, and wondering where the hell that came from.
Yeah, straight up, just immediately, fucking great movie.
I really liked it.
Fucking great movie. Like, better than 80% of all movies out this year. Just great movie. Even if you don't have kids to take this to, even if you weren't really attached to the show, even if you just had a tangential connection to it or idea of it, it's worth seeing.
Yeah.
It's legit funny.
Oh yeah, I'm like I think you probably liked it more than I did, but I still had a great time watching it.
Yeah, no, it has great characters. Mm-hmm. It has really compelling action sequences.
To an extent.
Well, they're for kids, but
yeah.
like they're dynamic enough to be entertaining.
It felt very Nickelodeon to me.
Yes, definitely. It's definitely a kids movie, but as far as that goes, I was entertained the whole way through. I laughed way more than I expected to.
Yeah, I know. Considering I was going in there expecting just to hate this movie, I was like,
I told you. I called this.
You're right.
I called this the first time I saw the trailer. I'm like, this has something to it. And I was, my expectations.
And I looked up the director. I was like, how? Like, because I think I was watching it going, how the hell?
Yeah, no, this
is the best movie this week, Dora and the Lost City of Gold.
Okay, so it was directed by the same dude who directed the Muppets and Muppets Most Wanted recently.
Yeah,
right?
like I looked at the minute I saw that, I was like, oh.
Yeah, but I looked into the other stuff. Yeah, he's got a couple of duds in there. The writers especially have a very hit and miss record. But he started off directing like Ali G and Flight of the Conchords. Like, this dude knows comedy acting.
Yeah, no, so it's good.
And directing,
and especially like going back to like the Muppets too. And like this movie feels like this movie does have a lot in common with the Muppets movie in the same way, in that it's very meta.
Yeah,
it's very self-aware. It's tongue in cheek, but still has heart to it.
It manages to make fun of the source material without, being mean about it or denigrating it. Just from the start, just the fourth wall of Dora talking to the camera is addressed and joked
Michael
about.
Pena looking over like, what?
Yeah,
she'll grow out of it. She'll grow out of it.
and Michael Pena, and that was Eva Longoria, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so great as her parents. Just they don't have a major role in the movie. They're there for a few scenes, but the scenes they're there for, they're perfect for their roles. Their chemistry is good. Their chemistry with Dora is good. It's a really wholesome family.
But like I was looking at the director list, and I saw like the Muppets. I was like, oh, and it hit me. It's kind of the same way you're doing like a Muppets revival. It's like, oh, if you're gonna do a movie about a source material you probably shouldn't do it on, get this guy, because he clearly knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And this goes to show you can really make anything work as long as you have a competent fucking director.
Yeah. Also, the writers, my goodness, what a hit or miss resume.
What do they have on their records?
Well, let me just. No, I'll hit you with this because you need to get the hit.
I need to experience it in real time.
Yes, of course. But I remember, and the thing is that both of them pretty much have worked together for a majority of their movies, so you don't need to go beat by beat for all of them. But oh my god. And also surprising that they wrote the Muppets movie and Muppets Most Wanted, because they things I enjoyed that they've done. Get Into the Greek, surprisingly good. Okay. Yes Man, decent. Sex Tape, okay. Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. Storks.
Love Storks.
Zoolander 2.
Oh no.
One of the worst movies we've ever seen.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm just looking through this and I'm like, huh? Okay, so clearly they're best when paired with certain people. They did Night School.
Or like doing kids movies.
Friends from College.
Never saw that one.
The Netflix series.
Still never watched it.
Oh, okay. I've heard nothing but bad things. Okay. But anyway,
that's why I haven't seen it on Netflix. If it's on Netflix and it's bad, I don't waste my time. And then people's like, are you going to watch the Adam Sandler movies on Netflix? Fuck no, I'm not going to watch the Adam Sandler. You want me to? Put it on Patreon, then I'll go watch the fucking Adam Sandler movies.
Okay, yeah, very hit or miss resumes from the writers, but this is absolutely 100% a hit. They are paired with a very strong cast and director, and I was struck constantly by how good the cinematography in this movie was.
Right? Yeah.
There's consistently, regularly shots in this movie where you're like, wow, that's really good looking.
That's pretty. It's colorful. It knows how to light the characters. It knows how to get the most out of them.
Yeah. And the sweeping shots of the jungle and the exotic vistas, just really, really great stuff.
And also just knows, like, fuck it, there's a fox now.
Yeah. No, okay. So I don't want to ruin the voice actors because there's a moment where
there's one in particular, and I knew it was coming because I read the news ahead of time.
Yeah, I did not, but there was a moment in the movie, because when I go to a kid's movie in the daytime, I'm not trying to mingle with all the families up front. This was another one of those where I go in there and I'm like, there's a lot of children and their moms here, and me not looking like I belong here, so I'm gonna sit in the back. And I'm just texting Michael throughout this movie, and there's one point where I'm like, is that? And he says, yes, it is. And I was very happy.
This is the case where, like, there was a weird transition between your texts from when, like, before you walked in to while you were in it.
Yeah.
And there was a transformative period of, I can't believe I'm gonna pay DC Dora. There's a lot of families here. I look weird.
I didn't think it was gonna be bad, to be fair. I was just really dreading the experience of being like a lone middle-aged dude walking into a kid's movie matinee. Like, it's just a weird look.
Hey, I went into the Jason Segel Muppet movie by myself wearing a black fedora.
We already talked about this.
We
talked about this last time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And that's not as bad because at least we can say we have a connection to the Muppets. It's not as weird to see me at the Muppet movie as it is to see me at Dora. Okay? Because we talked about this when we did the Ugly Dolls review, which was an even weirder movie to see me at.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but
no, like, so it starts off with like this, like, hesitation, like, I don't know. So I was like, aw, and oh my god, and this is great.
Yeah,
like,
I was having a fucking great time. So you have Dora all young in the jungle and everything, and then she, like 10 years later, she gets sent off to the city to go to high school and stuff, and there's this really interesting vibe with Dora where she's very strange. She's this very energetic, curious, positive, friendly person who is saying hi to everybody she sees and is being really sweet and understanding of everybody, and she's really smart and that weirds people out, and she's just a weird person. And I think it's really important that you mentioned it best. It was everyone in this movie cares more about her appearance.
And I found that really, like, to me, that was, I think, my favorite part and the most refreshing part about this movie is the fact that, it does the fish out of water story.
I took notes.
Oh, okay. Well, let me finish my thought and then get to your notes.
Go for it.
But like, and then she walks in, like, she walks to school, like, she is 100% comfortable with who she is. She's not questioning it for a moment.
Yeah.
She is happy with who she is. She's accepted it. She's like self-actualization at a young age, and everyone else around her, like, everyone else cares more about how she's perceived in the public than she does. And no scene is that better exemplified than the dance scene, and then like at the ball or whatever you call it, like
the school dance,
the school dance, where they say, "Comes your favorite star." She dresses up like as the sun.
She dresses as the sun,
and she starts like she's the only one on the dance floor, and she's just doing her own thing. And then like her cousin Diego's in this movie, by the way.
Yeah, go Diego. He's here.
He's here, and he's having a hard time like accepting this. And then like he goes, I was like, how, like, they make fun of you. He was like, I know, I don't care. And I was like, honestly?
No, she says, what am I supposed to do?
Oh, yeah.
Like, the best I can do is be me. Because what am I supposed to do? Not be me and just be normal and just so they can have what they want? Like, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But, like, the point is, like, that is actually, like, really fucking refreshing.
Yeah, not to mention when she goes to talk to her grandma, her abuela, they're sitting down and she's all sad, and her grandma just comes in and sits down next to her, and they're talking, and one of the last things she asks is, Grandma, am I a weirdo? And her grandma doesn't say no. And I love that.
Yeah.
Because there's a really important message in there that, you know, if she'd said, no, you're not, you're fine, then that would imply that being weird or different is wrong or a bad thing. But the movie very specifically doesn't take that path. It lets her be herself and addresses that being weird and different is totally fine, and that's great.
And honestly, I think this movie did that the way better with like less time spent on that than fucking Ugly Dolls did, and that was the entire rest of that movie.
Yeah.
And because it doesn't draw.
Although Ugly Dolls was basically drawing away from being a perfect person as opposed to being a normal person.
True,
so.
but the point still remains though. Like
no, I get it.
And it does with less time. It doesn't have to do it like as overtly or as like explicitly. So much as it showed it by just the characters' interactions.
Yeah,
and does a wonderful job. And it's a really strong It's a strong image.
Yeah, and throughout the movie, the way that the kids' character arcs go is basically, the weirdos show that they are useful and relatable and worth being friends with anyways, and the ones that are adverse to weirdness kind of get over it and get a little vulnerable themselves and aren't so concerned with not being, themselves. And it's a really interesting thing to watch run parallel with the two pairs of characters. I honestly, I don't want to spoil too much about this movie. I kind of want to keep it light because there's a lot of really cool surprises in this movie.
There's a couple of things I do want to talk about, so I'll give a little spoiler warning.
Let me say a couple of lines.
We'll wait a bit to get there.
A couple of lines from this movie just to give you an idea of the humor and the writing style in this, because the writing in this is so good. There's this one point where she walks up to a poisonous frog in the jungle, and the way she justifies it is she's recording herself, like making a video. So it goes from the perspective of the camera that she's set down, and she talks about this frog and the fact that it paralyzes you, and then she looks straight at the camera and says, "Can you say severe neurotoxicity?" and like smiles for a second, and then it goes off, which I thought was hilarious. And then the scene when she first arrives, I'm assuming it's LA. I wasn't paying too much attention.
Yeah.
The city. Whatever. But I'm guessing it's LA because there's this one point where the first night she arrives, she goes to lay down in her bed. She's not comfortable. She climbs out the window and lays down in the yard to look up at the stars, which is, it's going to be sweet, but there's just like clouds.
There's like an orange hue
of
an airplane.
The night pollution. And then these police helicopters and sirens. And if you listen carefully, you can hear them say, "Step away from the vehicle, put your hands where I can see them."
Yeah, I heard that.
I was like, Jesus.
I heard that too. I think that was more like, all right, movie, you've won me over.
There's a weird kid who talks about how long he can hold his breath underwater, and he says, "I spent a lot of time at the at the public pool when I was a kid. Like my parents just left me there, and pretending to drown is a great way to get attention." I'm like, bruh. There's let's see. One of the characters says Dora better not be leading them on a wild goose chase, and she says, "Actually, wild goose chases are really fun. Wild geese are really fun to chase."
Unless they chase
you. No, it's when you catch them that's bad. Caught goose is the meanest.
That's right.
What the fuck is this?
And can we just talk how good that fucking actress is as Dora?
Oh no, she's fantastic. She was also the kidnapped girl in fucking Sicario 2.
I heard about that, yeah.
Yeah.
I never watched Sicario 2.
It's not a good fucking movie.
I heard it wasn't.
I hated it, but she was good in it. To be honest, a lot of people were good in it. It's just a fucking vile movie. It doesn't... Anyway.
Yeah,
I could go off about that later.
Let's not.
But then there's this one point where one of the characters is saying Swiper, because Swiper's in the movie. Swiper's the fox with the bandana, like the face mask. And one of the characters says, "Why does that fox need to remain anonymous? Who's going to recognize one specific fox?"
Or even like the opening caption it has at the beginning of the film.
Oh yeah,
this is a true story, except for the fox being swiped, because that's a harmful stereotype.
Yeah, it's like says paid for by the Society of American Foxes or something.
And it's like, and the fox just shows up. Like there's no build up to it.
No,
like,
it's just
there's
Swiper.
no there's no build up. It says like, oh, some animals can talk and run for whatever
reason. It's like
reason.
the cartoon though.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
But like the original, like it opens up with like them but it's like in the little girl's imagination where like Swiper shows up and Boots can talk.
No, all the other stuff talking is her imagination, but Swiper is fucking real apparently.
Yeah.
They can do backflips and shit.
And played by Benicio del Toro.
One of my other little favorite moments was, "You're Dora the kidnapped teenager."
Oh, yeah.
There are so many moments in this movie that are just really well written and well comedically timed. And while not all of the performances are tip top, they're good enough for a kids movie.
Yeah,
she's fantastic.
I mean, for this kind of movie, it pretty much falls in the category of what you expect. The important part is just Dora herself, and she nails it.
Yeah, it delivers above average for your expectations, and then the parts where it shines are just fucking great, and they deliver on a really consistent clip. This movie is consistently funny and entertaining.
Yeah.
And there was that one part where because she sings a song about doing stuff in the show. So there's one point where they go to dig a poo hole.
Oh, the poo song.
And so she sings a song about the poo hole.
It's
totally just a weird little song. And it's such a weird callback while making fun of it, but also being funny and good natured. Like it's so good.
And so like this one character who's like the stuffy like historian chick.
Yeah, no, she's the top dog smart girl at the school.
But anyway, she's like, of course. Then she's like, I have to do something, and then Dora's like, I know what's going on. You need to poop. And it's like, of course I had to poop. I've been stuck in a plane for like 12 hours. And it's like, and she just has a poo shovel.
I haven't pooed for 48 hours.
Oh, is it? It's like she just pulls out a poo shovel that like a
Dora's
samurai warrior.
Backpack is like the Mary fucking Poppins bag. It is just carrying everything you could need out of a survival kit.
And she just has like a great casual air of it drawing out, and you can like, what is that? It's a poo shovel. Let's sing the poo song.
No, it's oh man, it's such a good time. I can't think of the last time I saw a kids movie that was this fun and actually funny and entertaining.
And it's a clever poop joke. That's the thing.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard to make a clever poop joke, but
without just getting into the grossness of it, because usually poop jokes are about ew, gross. But it's a legit funny poop joke.
It's so goddamn earnest that you can't help but kind of hum it yourself.
And she's so cheerful,
yeah,
and positive, and she's like, "There's nothing to be embarrassed about."
Everybody poops.
Oh, it's so great. Okay, so. Let's see. Is there anything else we could talk about?
I would say before we go into spoilers, I would just say I think this movie is, I think the really biggest takeaway, it's self-aware enough, it's meta enough, and it's cleverly written enough, and it's a consistent story, but it does so without being cynical.
Yes.
Without being like nihilistic.
Yeah.
Or being jaded. It's all these things that's so easy to get jaded with, and it does it with such an air of positivity.
Optimism. Optimism. You're fine.
Such an air of positivity that it still all works together. And again, same way with the Muppet movie. The Muppet would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Where like there's such a great heart to it, and it's like you're just along for the ride.
It has a lot of heart.
You're just along for the ride. It's like, yeah, they're making a poop hole. That's great.
Oh, another thing I should mention is that this movie has a very standard Indiana Jones style plotline.
Yeah,
It's and what I was surprised about was partway through the movie when they finally get to the temple and they're trying to do like the jungle puzzles. I'm watching this. I'm like, this is Uncharted. This is Tomb Raider. They finally made an Uncharted movie, but it was starring Dora the Explorer.
I mean, if we're gonna go that route, I'd probably go Tomb Raider. Probably more appropriate comparison.
Have you played Uncharted?
Yes, all of them.
Oh, okay.
I've also played all the Tomb Raiders, newer ones. So.
All right.
Yeah.
You're more qualified for that than I am, but no, it was just really interesting to see them actually doing the temple puzzles and stuff, and having that. It had a very dynamic style to it. It wasn't just boring and random and weird. Like, what's this? Like,
and it's actually better than the actual Tomb Raider movie.
Oh yeah,
both of them. Oh wait, all three of them.
Yeah. So it's a great time. It's a great adventure. It's fun. It's funny. It's cute. It's positive. It has a good message. The characters are lovable. It's deeply endearing. God, I don't know what else you could want out of a kids movie.
Yeah, especially for like for Dora the Explorer. Oh, there's one. Hold on, there's one. There you go.
All right.
For a Dora the Explorer movie, a movie that nobody thought anyone can make anything of quality of.
Well, I mean, it really is the question, how do you turn something as simple as Dora the Explorer into a feature-length film? And they fucking did it, and they did it really well
against
and
all fucking odds.
I don't know how to. I'm honestly shocked in the most pleasant ways possible.
I know, like I
really pleasant.
Like
surprise.
I texted you and I saw it like on Monday. I was like, this isn't bad.
Which is underselling it, I
Yeah.
think, because it's surprisingly good.
Because I was more like just out of disbelief, like Dora might be the best movie this week.
I honestly, I would put this on par with Shazam.
I don't know if I go that far.
Because Shazam, well, in terms of the dynamics, in terms of like the kid qualities of it,
As far as the energy, I'll give them the same path.
the energy, the sense of, I feel like this was funnier than Shazam in a lot of places.
Very different styles of humor to a certain extent.
Absolutely, but just in terms of being a quality film that, you know, you were expecting to be good, but still ended up better than you thought it would be. Mm-hmm. You know, while not being a stellar movie per se, it's still really, really worth your time.
I mean, I like both movies, so honestly, you should
I'm
go watch
saying
both
that
movies.
they're both great.
Because
So,
both deserve your support. You should go watch Shazam
Yeah.
and support that movie so like, DC starts
absolutely.
making movies like that rather than
absolutely
the other
recommend.
stuff, yeah.
Absolutely recommend Dora to anybody you know who has kids. Absolutely recommend Dora to any stoner friends you have.
If you
who
like
just
the
want to go
Muppets-
see a silly movie, it's great.
If you like the Jason Segel Muppet movies, you'll like this movie.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of the best barometer as far as like interest goes.
So, spoiler territory?
Yes, I have to, speaking of drug trips.
Oh my god.
Like I have to explain the process getting to that scene though, because before I walked in the movie, I Snapchatted the poster and sent to Laura and said there better be a fucking talking map in this. I'm gonna be pissed. No, it gets better. And I'd like after the first like 6 minutes, I'm like, oh, there actually was a talking map in this movie. And then Laura replies, Did they all get really high on shrooms and see the map talking? And I'm like, no, just a girl's imagination. Son of Chi was actually really clever. And then that scene happened. I'm like, oh my god, you totally called the drug trip.
Oh, that's great.
And then she told me, like, is it better or worse than the one from Good Dinosaur? I was like, there was one in Good Dinosaur. And
Would
then
you say better?
It's better.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Oh man, I did miss a chunk of the movie because I had to leave the theater to take a call, but I came back just in time to see that, and I was so happy. I was delighted.
Yeah, basically they got misdirected by guardian old lady chick, and then they ended like a giant field of giant flowers, and they touched the flowers, released spores, and then they went on a massive drug trip.
When that old lady showed up near the end of the movie, I was like, I guess she showed up when I wasn't here, because clearly they know who she is.
Yeah, that's what you missed. But yeah, and what I like about them, like, there's just some weird subtle jokes. Like, yeah, they touch this flowers, release spores, which I guess just gets them is a wild hallucinogen because everyone starts immediately start seeing cartoon heads, and they're like,
it turns into a crazy, like, high budget version of Dora the Explorer with a similar animation style.
Plus,
it's great.
The added feature, did you see the part where their guy just like panics, strips naked, and runs into the jungle?
Yes. Their leader, their adults, basically takes off all of his clothes and runs off naked, and you can see his little cartoon butt running off. It was unexpected, but also still like, kind of funny.
He's having a bad trip.
Yeah. No, it seemed like a pretty good trip. He was having a good time.
Okay, right.
But when it comes, like, it's another example of how, you know, the movie utilizes the fact that kids will think butts are funny. Kids will think poop is funny. But they managed to make a joke out of it that's not cliched and gross and just using that as the joke itself.
Yeah.
You know, they're not letting it do the lifting of the joke. There is actually a joke built around it. And this kind of intelligence towards the writing is there through the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's great. It's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's really like, I guess since we're in spoiler territory, we could talk about that cameo.
Which one?
Boots.
Oh. So there's one point in the movie where Doris, like, falls down a long slope, and it's implied that she hit her head or something, but she has this revelation about the fact that, you know, if they just trust the guys and do what they say, they're not going to be okay. Like, her family and friends are going to be murdered by these mercenaries. And Boots is just looking at her quietly, and she's having a conversation with herself as the monkey just stares at her, and then all of a sudden starts talking, and I immediately text Michael, and I'm like, is that Danny Trejo as Boots the monkey?
And I'm like, yes, it is. Oh, yes, that is Danny Trejo.
Oh, man. It was,
like, and I found
so
out
good.
about that, I found out about that, like, when they announced the casting for it, and I was like, how is that gonna work? Was my
It worked.
first-
It
my,
worked.
Like, yeah, like, it's so weird that you have Danny Trejo and Benicio del Toro in the same film, and it's fucking Dora.
They're voice acting the talking animals. Oh, it was so good. That was such a good time.
This is a really fun movie. I had a really good time with this.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to say about it other than
No,
it was
those are really
great.
the two things I want to talk about spoiler-wise.
No, I feel like this was a strong 8.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
solid, strong 8.
Yeah, I mean,
I would happily pay to go see it again with other people.
it's gonna be so weird to recommend this to people because they're never gonna believe me.
No, it's one of those shockingly good movies. So, we'll see how good the rest of the year goes. But this is definitely a contender for the top lists here. It's weird because in terms of pleasant surprises, we saw this and The Art of Self-Defense,
That's true.
both very pleasantly surprising films.
Yeah.
So
for very different reasons.
it's about the same.
Yeah, like the part where Dora just like fucking punched somebody in the throat
Yeah.
and says, "Let's do push-ups."
Yes, that part.
While looking
Anyway.
at titties on her computer.
Anyway,
Can you say titties?
can you say corporate lawsuit? All right.
Fight Club
so-
scene, or like just a clip, like a second of porn somewhere in the video. It's like,
Yeah,
they
right.
didn't know they saw it, but they did.
Just starts crying. All right.
Can you say?
All right, we got another review to do, and I got to go do something. So, that's Dora. Like seriously, go watch it. You'll be surprised. It's good.
Yeah. So let's just jump right in, and I'll
You're just
pause.
gonna cut.
I'm just gonna.
Do you want to hit the button?
Yeah, I'll press the button first. So that way it's easier to especially parse this out. This all anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But, yeah, I'll bite.
All right, bye.